I was really excited to hear from a Canadian club that they wanted to, roll up their sleeves and really improve their golf course in every aspect that they can. When I first saw the property, I thought it had a lot of classic undertones. You could sense that someone who put it together originally, put together a pretty good golf course on a pretty tight piece of ground too. And then you could just tell that the trees had really overgrown and taken over that property, which was already tight in the first place, right? So when you had these canopies stretching out, they've been growing for 60 to 80 years. A lot of these trees, they've kind of reached their point where they're now impacting play and conditions. So if we could just open up some of those views a bit more, I think it would lend itself to a different feel of a course, right?
We're at a point in time where we have to replace irrigation. We've got to do drainage. It's, you're starting to see the effects of climate change in Vancouver and restrictions on water and pesticides. So to be able to put turf in place and a program in place that's going to handle and support that, I think is going to be our next step to, we say it's like we've been here for 100 years, and it's like, now how do you set yourself up for the next 100?
The crazy thing about this though, right, is that we have a golf course that has to produce in drought conditions for 3 months out of the year. And then when we get into the winter time, it has to be able to absorb
tons of rain.
Yeah.
Point Grade decided to go the other way and retain their golf or their ground for golf purposes, which for me that was all I needed to hear. It's like, all right, well, if we're planning on doing a 100-year, this is our 100-year centennial. Let's do a full meal deal plan. Let's do a comprehensive master plan that takes into account all these different constraints that they have that they're dealing with currently, and so that got me excited.
We're really trying to queue up Point Grey for the next 50, 60, 100 years, and this is the first step, as far as achieving that goal. The practice area project was really, it was the first phase, I guess, of the master plan.
I like to say this is where the whole idea started around, was the fire pit. So the whole idea of the farm was a social space. We used to go down to a club down in the desert, the Vintage Club, and $50 million clubhouse and all the rest, and the only place we wanted to have a beer was at the range. So we kind of started with this as a place for members to gather and hang out, and kind of cultivates people building relationships and a bit of a culture here. So I joke it started here and then it worked out from the rest, but yeah, it sort of did. And then the whole idea was like, we're going to cultivate golfers here. So instruction's really a core value of mine. I think that people who are getting better at golf are going to enjoy their time here at the club more. They're going to play more events. They're going to be really engaged members. And we've really found that. So we've invested a lot of energy and time into building an instruction program, building the best team of professionals that we can. And I think our membership really benefits from that. Big teaching bay here, trackman screens that come out. We have an indoor simulator on this side. We've got screens on the other side as well. All of our fitting gear here, all of our stuff with all of our major OEMs and all of our heads and everything we need. So it's been kind of cool for members to be able to come down on a Saturday and say we want to try a new driver and be able to take out, I don't know, a few hundred different combinations and figure out what's best for them.
Been a member here since 1984. The caliber of players that we've attracted over the last couple of years, mostly because of this facility, has gone up exponentially.
Matt's covered if it gets early fringe season, I'm assuming. And then the 2 indoor hitting bays, all weather. You can literally grind with a trackman if it's thunder and lightning.
Yeah, heaters.
Unreal.
Not a tech person by any means, but the trackman's great. My 9-year-old son uses the trackman, so he'll bring his iPad and show me that he's bombed a drive 120 yards, and all the numbers. Whenever Dave's down here, he'll go over the numbers with me, and I'm not big on all that, but I use it just to see, often to see how far sideways I'm hitting it, but it's good to, it's great for everybody.
We are currently set up on the trackman range at Point Grey, and we just hit a couple shots so that the trackman knew where we were on the range, and now Brandon and I are going to be calling out a yardage for each other, and then you can choose any club in your bag and try and get as close as you can carry distance to that number.
Okay, let's just go 160.
160, okay. I got the club. Oh, go. 60. 160 on the dot.
Okay, let's do 5-iron.
Okay. Nice. 5-iron.
32 yards, okay.
The highest potential for this.
We're slicing.
So high.
Okay.
That's got to be higher.
49 yards in the air.
I'm really excited for holes 1 and 18.
Yeah.
We're going to really open up the view from the clubhouse and create a combined fairway between those two. We're already pinched in there in the first place. By removing a lot of the trees that bisect the 18th and the first hole, we're going to allow the play to just, it's one giant fairway.
At Point Grey, we were lucky enough to catch up with an old friend and teammate, Matt Courchene, who's always happy to give us some insight as to how data can be used to improve your golf game.
I run this website, Data Golf, with my younger brother, Will. The site is just focused on analytics applied to mostly professional golf and some amateur golf. Strokes gained, in a basic sense, is it's going to be a measure of the quality of a golf shot. The two things we care about are distance and lie. So you're 100 yards out and you're either in the fairway or the rough. And using past data, we're going to estimate how many strokes it should take from each of these distances. And to get strokes gained, what we're going to do is we're going to get the expected strokes from the starting point. So let's say it's 4. The expected strokes from where you hit your shot, let's say it's 3.2. So you went from a shot that was 4 strokes to hole out to 3.2 to hole out, and it took you 1 stroke to do that. So you lost 0.2 strokes there.
I think 5 will have a little bit more teeth to it than it currently does.
Yeah, shot.
Six is fairly similar. All we're doing is putting that green up on the riverbank more so that, you know, when you're putting, you're looking at the river rather than staying below it.
Seven looks pretty similar to what exists today out there. Like, I
Yeah.
think it's already a good hole, good dog leg. What are you thinking there?
So we're gonna just open up that right side corner a bit more, put some bunkers in there, just so it's a bit more playable.
Yeah.
And then open up the left side so that people can, you know, hit their driver and drive it through the dog leg a bit and still be in play. And that green's also gonna sit nicely on the ground.
It's going to be neat to see the contrast between the old and the new and the playability of those 3 holes.
Well, you'll definitely notice the contrast. The 3 new holes are completely different than the other 15.
These new holes are such an interesting, you know, dynamic and an interesting advancement for golf course maintenance that touches on a lot of those things that were, you know, less water, less mowing, less labor, and improved playability. So it's really a holistic approach that binds everything together, moving forward, and also delivering the playability and the golf experience that we're looking to deliver.
Like the front left of that bunker,
Yeah.
to the right side of that back bunker,
Okay.
kind of intersects.
And it runs off on either side of it?
Yeah, so the right side bowls a little bit,
Okay.
left side all chases away,
Okay.
and
So do you almost want to hit a draw if you're righty around the bunker to bring it in from the
like
right?
missing this left or right, like missing the green 10 yards right is probably a better spot than hitting it left center of the green,
Okay.
just in terms of coming at it. So
Good to know.
So the fescue was one of the solutions to that water restriction vulnerability to ensure that if they did have to turn the water down by a quarter, they can just water their greens and their tees, and the fescue fairways will be fine. You can just let that stuff bake out.
Down the middle was the term that Tyler used when we asked him how his maintenance crew plans to work through the golf course on a day-to-day basis. As soon as you step on the 8th tee at Point Grey, you can feel the difference from a playability perspective. But it's how these holes are maintained that really piqued our interest. The new holes are straight up fun, and to know that they also require less water, less mowing, less labor overall for the maintenance team is a win-win situation in our books.
So good.
Nice shot. Stroke gain is pretty boring in its basic form, like just distance lie. Like I think these new holes, what's going to be interesting is, and the way it ties into architecture is like there's all these claims about angles mattering and stuff. Like literally everything's closely mown. So you need to be able to say if somebody snipe hooks a drive and it's still in the fairway and they're 200 yards out, another player hits it a bit right and they're also 200 yards out, they might not be in similar spots, right? Even though basic strokes gained would say they are, because they're in the fairway and they're 200 yards out.
Right.
So that's what I think the next step is for strokes gained, and like that's going to be really relevant for architecture.
In the grand scheme of the 18 holes, 9 was always going to be the scoreable 5, and then 10 was going to be the little wicket par 3, right?
We talked a little bit earlier about how complex this hole was, or how difficult the property is to design in this in the middle section here, which is super narrow. So depending on how the range got and then shaping this green, it's a little bit unknown at the time. And but you see when Riley shows up with the bulldozer and starts to move material around and, you know, get his creative juices flowing, it's so cool to see how that concept, just how the subtleties and how it changes somewhat in the you know, on the ground. And you got to ask Riley this, but I think that he shaped this green in like a day. Like it's just on the machine, you know, like just keep working it. And I've never seen greens come together that quick. And when you take a look at 8, 9, and 10, it looks like somebody had been there for, you know, weeks and weeks trying to get them to tie in.
Yeah.
So it's pretty remarkable to kind of watch it come, you know, come to fruition. Yeah. I think this is the coolest hole because we can play it from 165 all the way up to like 120. Yeah. That green is quite deep, so back in the shade there's a little shelf that you saw probably back right, back left. That there's just so much variety that you can play out there. We'll throw the tees over on the forward tees, push them back, bring them up. It's really just, you know, the forward tees can be, the blacks might be up with the forward tees one day. This is the perfect test to kind of get it figured out, you know, on probably a quarter of the golf course. And then we can all in. And then we learn a lot of things, and then we can apply it to, you know, to the last 15 holes.
What are going to be your top 2 or 3 favorite holes out there?
I think hole 11 is going to be a neat hole. We're going to do it's, you know, right now it's extremely uphill, pretty abrupt, a bit of a slog. And there's a few factors for that, but we're going to do our best to try to create that into a short 4 with a large punch bowl green.
Yeah, right now the course, the 15 old holes, I would say, and the typical strokes gain method of just lie and distance is pretty much sufficient. Because like you said, you need to hit it straight off the tee. You're probably not going for angles too much out there.
If the PGA Tour played here, based on what you know about strokes gained, who do you think would fare well at Point Grey? Just
purely based off the fact that it's 6,800 versus whatever the typical tour course is, 72 or 71. Certainly I think distance, the benefit of distance would be pretty muted here. Players that come to mind are players that I know we like at places like Colonial on the PGA Tour, and maybe, no, Harbour Town maybe. Brian Harmon comes to mind as like the prototypical really consistent straight player. That's who I kind of see as playing well here.
14 is actually, we're going to change 14. I'm moving that creek a little bit more towards the edge of the property there. I'm going to be twisting the green slightly a bit as well. I want it to be a drivable form. It's really going to be about angle into that green. There's a huge hill there in the back and the corner of the property, and you can see Mount Baker, I believe, from the top of that hill.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to clear those trees out, and we're going to place the 15th green up there. I think that's going to be neat because you're going to have both mountain views and river view from there. When you get up on that hill, you can see Mount Baker in the background. You see all the way down the Fraser River, so you see all the boats. Like it's amazing. I'm excited for hole 16. A bunkerless hole is, you know, you always got to be excited for a bunkerless hole, but to have that burn, that ditch bisect right in front of the green, and we're going to just put that green nice and flat, subtle on the ground, but tuck it right tight to the edge of that burn. '17 was pretty much already there, and it was one of the more interesting golf holes that I saw on that original plan. So we're just going to take that inspiration from what they originally had, and I put it in the exact same spot. So that green is probably the closest thing to a restoration on this project as any other hole.
If I pictured my ideal home course, it would look a lot like Point Grey. After spending an entire day on property, learning more about the long-term master plan, and seeing firsthand how the changes made have already improved the golfer experience, it goes without saying that the future is bright for Point Grey. The farm is a practice facility that rivals any in the country. The grounds crew is progressive. The membership is fun and inclusive. And most importantly, the breakfast sandwich was one of the best I've ever had in my life.
Wow.
We're excited to see where Point Grey can go in the years to come. And we can't thank David, Tyler, Riley, and Brom enough for giving us some insight as to where they currently stand.
It's funny, right? Like if I was to build a club today, like clubhouse wouldn't be a huge part of it, right? You might have like some sort of small lounge or grill, like locker rooms, and then it would be like, how much social space can you have outside, right? I don't know if, I think this is more of like how people want to hang out now.